out there that spoke the same language, and Alex somehow stumbled across DealerRefresh, and we had about a 2 or 3 hour phone call, and we've been friends ever since.
Yeah, I think that was Ken Lee's.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember him. That was from the original Auto Trader days.
Yeah, I remember Ken.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, I am going to. Are you recording? Yeah, you're recording. I'm going to push this live on Facebook here. And this always takes a little tedious at times.
Take my hair real quick.
Yeah.
Looks good, man.
Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome.
Oh,
Yeah, this part might be the only issue with Zoom. The push to Facebook.
Push it, baby.
yeah. Unfortunately, I'm going to. Crap. All right.
You don't nail it in like a 30-second window.
Yeah, I just missed it. All right. I'm on Facebook. Of course, our internet service here like still isn't kicking it. I'll have to tell you about that later on. All right, there we go. All right. Super big.
Y'all keep it down back there, will you?
All right, just be another second here. Boop, boop, boop. You guys can chit chat.
Chit chat.
Chit
Got
chat.
Miles back there too, Tom?
What's that, Peter?
Got Miles back there too?
Miles is hanging out back on the couch here.
Howdy.
Hey, Miles, it's Peter.
Hey. Nice to actually see you for change.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen too many emails with your name on it. What's that?
I said, I think it's our first time actually talking. I've seen your photo before, but never.
Yeah, I know. I said too many emails that we've been on. But looking forward to getting everything running with you guys in those about 8 markets soon.
Excellent.
We are too.
Yeah, hopefully we're going to generate some more interest with this thing, and we can do more like this.
Absolutely.
All right.
Here we go.
Yo.
Got it.
I swear this week went by faster than last Friday. Last week.
All right, now
All right.
we're actually live.
We are.
That time of the week. It's another Friday. I almost get excited for Fridays anymore, Alex.
You do or don't?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I'm getting to a point where I'm enjoying and having fun doing Refresh Friday.
Oh, I thought just because you didn't have school tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, actually, I'm heading up to the Carlisle Car Show. My friend's got a Citroen. Is that how you say it? Citroen.
That's how you say it.
Yeah, that's how I say it. He's got looks like a little golf cart. Matter of fact, I forget what the model is, but he's entering into, and they're having some type of 75th anniversary for Citroen owners and all this good stuff. So I'm heading up there tonight. I haven't been to that car show. It's probably been over 20 years, and it's still going strong. If you live in this area, you definitely know about the the summer events, the summer car shows at Carlisle. It's pretty well known.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's pretty big. So, well, look, excited about today. We've got I guess it's one of those topics that's been around for a while when it comes down to cable TV. But obviously, I mean, just in the past few years, things have changed quite a bit. And it was funny because, Alex, you and I were on the phone yesterday, and you brought up an article that you wrote over 10 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And it was you and I were discussing when do we cut our cords? When do we quit using the good old local cable station or DirecTV? When is it going to be when you just, that's not how you get your cable TV anymore, and you start going online. Even 10 years ago, it was sort of difficult, to have I guess a fast enough connection. Of course, it depends on where you live, all those good factors. But you, I guess, cut your cable, over 10 years ago. You wrote the article about it.
First time.
Yeah, first time. you've had to come back. I've cut my cable. It's probably been about 3 or 4 years now. I held on to it for one station. Really, it was for pay-per-view events. That was about the only reason why I had it. I'm like, why am I spending almost $100 a month for the ability to get pay-per-view? And really the only reason was because I was hesitant. I didn't have enough faith in the internet connection to be able to stream the live event. That's obviously no more the case, but yeah, short story long. Today we've got, and welcome aboard, we've got Tom Park with Tom Park Media Group. We've got Peter Jones. Peter is the Senior Director for Premion. And I guess both of you guys are here representing Hoot Interactive, correct?
Yes, we are.
Awesome. Tom, why don't you give us a little bit of background. Who is Tom Park? Tom Park Media, what do you do, and how long have you been in the industry, and how long have you been talking to dealerships?
Well, if you go back to about 1981 is when I started. I was a pitch man for Courtesy Datsun.
Okay, Datsun.
That's how old I am. In 85, I started an ad agency, and my first client, coincidentally, was a store in Oklahoma City called Lynn Hickey Dodge, which became the very first corporate-owned car dealership in America. That was bought out by a company called Cross Continent Automotive in 1994, and that's when that whole corporate buyout started with that particular dealership. The next 10 years, I've worked with a bunch of high-volume TV store car dealerships across the country, and still doing it.
So it's been pretty lucrative for you, huh?
It's worked out, yeah. I think there was a seismic shift, if you will, in 2008 when we had the recession. And that's when I think a lot of dealers pulled back from television. And at the same time, there was the digital movement going on. So since that time, it's been a balance between traditional and digital. And now we have the opportunity, I think, with companies like Peter and Premion to move into the next chapter of connected TV.
Yeah.
Which blends both.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're excited.
I was going to say, it's definitely an exciting landscape right now. No doubt. All right, Peter, give us a little bit more information about Peter. What's your background?
Sure. So been probably for about the past 15 years been working in the basically the internet ad space. So I mean, it wasn't too long ago that we were trying to get dealerships to spend money on Google. So, making that transition from traditional, into that digital space, and then, working with them, recently in the OTT space has kind of been a big, the media landscape has shifted a lot. And I think OTT is probably one of the biggest disruptors in recent years. And now we're trying to help them navigate, well, what inventory do I need to look at? And, how can I buy this inventory? And kind of just make sure that they understand, what platforms or what buying platforms are the best for them to use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're throwing out the acronyms, which will what acronyms are we going to hear the most? And why don't you go ahead and explain the acronyms, what they stand for, and maybe the definition.
Sure. OTT is probably the one that everyone hears the most, or CTV for connected TV.
Okay.
OTT just means over the top. So it's not over the air. It's going to be anything that you connect through your Wi-Fi at home or through the internet. Your connected TV, obviously that's just any type of smart TV. They put in Roku devices or Amazon Fire Sticks or Apple TVs. Anything like that is a connected TV.
And describe OTT a little bit more. Over the top?
Yep, over the top. So basically a streaming service. You mentioned you cut the cord a few years ago. So how are you getting your programming now? What service are you using?
Combination. You're going to make me list it out, right? Hulu, Netflix, of course, ESPN Plus. I was holding on to the cable TV because of your pay-per-view events.
Sure.
And ESPN came in. I like MMA, UFC. It's about the only sport I actually watch on TV. And now with ESPN, they've got some connection going on. So ESPN Plus for that. And what else?
What about some Amazon for some Grand Tour?
Amazon Prime, absolutely. You forget about that one because it's part of the Prime package. But actually, I quite a bit of shows. My favorite show right now is Sneaky Pete.
They just season 3 just started.
Great show. What else?
Well, I mean, you mentioned them right there. I mean, people have been streaming for a while. I call Netflix a gateway drug. So once you get Netflix and then Amazon Prime, now you're hooked.
Oh yeah.
Now there's more and more options for all these cord cutters that they can start streaming services like you just mentioned. DirecTV has DirecTV Now. Dish has Swing, so Swing is a big one. YouTube TV, recently launched in the past couple years. I've
got that for one reason.
Which one?
The YouTube TV. I've got that for one reason, and that's the Cobra Kai show.
I have not seen the Cobra Kai show, but I'll check it out.
If you like the original Karate Kid, you got to watch Cobra Kai. Definitely entertaining. But yeah, you're right. I guess people's really been doing it for a long time. I'm not really sure why they hold on to the traditional cable TV.
Well, the reason we have it in our house is because of the kids.
Kids.
Yeah. Even though they don't even watch TV anymore, so I'm second guessing why we're.
I was going to say, you say it's for the kids. Both of my kids are on their mobile device. I mean, unless we sit down as a family and watch a movie, the large TV does not get used, at least not by the children. My son's on his iPhone, my daughter's on her iPad Mini, and they've got their YouTube channels that they're allowed to subscribe to, and that's it, man. That's it. What are you seeing across the landscape, Tom and Peter?
It's from an advertising standpoint, I'm still seeing there's still plenty of traditional TV stores out there in most of the markets, but I'm seeing a lot of confusion on the part of car dealers in particular on just how to approach the CTV market, and how to really measure it. Because we grew up in this era of Nielsen ratings and that sort of thing, and now and Peter will address this. I think you mentioned that this morning, Peter, that attribution has taken on a new kind of face in the marketplace. And I think where we are now is trying to figure out how to best use the platforms that we have with video from our standpoint, which is why we came up with our version of dynamic video that I think Peter would agree fits right into where we're headed with CTV.
Absolutely, Tom. I mean, it's a great fit, especially in the OTT space. But, you know, Jeff, to your point, when you look at, you named like 5 different services that you use, and, you know, that's the confusion. That's where dealers are, you know, asking, well, cable has their service, then you have, you know, all the other streaming service that I need to be in, then they have their linear decision. So that's the main question is, well, what service or which ones or how many of them do I need to, you know, subscribe to or buy, and how am I going to reach, you know, all my potential customers?
Well, I think from our standpoint, we're talking primarily ad-supported CTV.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think what's happening now, all the people that stacked up the subscription services are reassessing, and from what I'm told, the movement is now back to more ad-supported. There's a shift now away from subscription to ad-supported, because when you start stacking them up, it gets pretty expensive, just like regular cable.
Well, that's the whole thing. You know, before you know it, you're going to be back to spending what you were spending before with your traditional cable TV. So, you mentioned being confusing, and that was the whole reason for today's Refresh Friday was, you know, I think this is a topic that a lot of dealerships are either not aware of or very confused around, because it is confusing. I mean, even as a consumer, it's confusing, because here I am like, all right, I have all these, I guess what you would say, you know, CTV platforms, you know, the Hulu, the Netflix, and they're stacked. Now, the only way I can get through HBO, and that's if I go through Prime, because I signed up with HBO through Prime. So I got to make sure I've got that loaded. There's so much out there right now, and from what I see, it's not going to get any easier. It's not going to get any better. You got more and more companies offering their own apps. I mean, Hulu was owned by 3 different companies. What you had, Warner, AT&T had a sliver, Disney had a big sliver of it, Fox was a part of it. Of course, Disney acquired Fox, so they took over that percentage of Hulu. And then AT&T said, well, we're just going to get out of the game because the writing's on the wall. AT&T is a part of Warner, correct?
I believe that's correct.
No? So they went ahead and dropped, because they're going to be competing with their own apps. So as of yesterday, I think Hulu is controlled by what? Disney has almost 60 to 80%. So that whole landscape, what Hulu is today, can be completely different in 2 years. And I don't want to just talk about those specific platforms or channels and such apps. But my point being is, it's extremely confusing just from a consumer standpoint. How do we consume these shows that we're going after, we want to watch? And, you know, more importantly for us in the discussion today is, how do dealerships get into this? Because more and more people are consuming their TV this way. Do you have any stats that you could throw around as how many people, you know, within the United States are, you know, watching TV through the different apps? How much TV, you know, what's the length, what's the time, how are they able to measure this? What kind of stats could you throw our way? I mean, what are dealerships missing out on by not participating?
So I think what they need to look at is, like Tom had mentioned, the ad-supported platforms. So it's projected, I believe these are eMarketer stats, about 205 million people or OTT users in the year 2019. So you're going to have more OTT users than paid TV subscribers in 2019. And roughly about 73% of those OTT users are viewing on an ad-supported platform. So ad-supported are the ones you just mentioned that sometimes you have to subscribe to them, like a Sling TV or a DirecTV Now. But then you have a lot of these pure, like we call them pure play or digital first OTT providers like Pluto TV or Zumo, TV. These are completely ad-supported platforms, and you get all that content for free. So if you go to Pluto TV and you go to there, you can access it through an app, through a smart TV, or you can actually access it through a browser on your computer. You'll see a channel lineup, and you'll have all your sports, you'll have your news, you'll have your comedy. And they just got acquired by Viacom for over, I think it was $340 million this year. So they're making a big investment into Pluto TV and adding more content for them. You know, you're looking at roughly 12 million users on Pluto TV that you're not reaching if you're not in the OTT space as an auto dealer.
So you're talking about Pluto TV.
Pluto, like the planet, or the Disney dog.
I've never heard of this.
It's completely free content. Now, it's not going to be the brand name networks like you're going to recognize with your normal channel lineup. They'll have Impact, which will be like a wrestling or an MMA type of channel. They'll have specific channels towards sports, and you might recognize some of the news channels. But they have close to almost 100 free content channels that you can watch.
Wow! And how many of those platforms are out there?
They're coming out of the woodwork. So, you're going to see more and more. Pluto and Zumo are probably the most well-known. Zumo, Xumo.
Okay.
Awesome TV. Then you have all your other ones that are like Free Flicks and Popcorn Flicks and Watch Free Flicks, which also has a ton of content. Sony Crackle is another big one that you can just go on and watch a lot of, Sony's library that they will offer there, from shows to movies.
Yeah, Crackle's actually been around for a long time. If I'm not mistaken, they're probably one of the first.
Yeah, Sony's, they've had Crackle out for a while. They also have PlayStation View, which is a streaming service. It's not, you don't have to have a PlayStation to have it. It's just a streaming service that you can watch, also ad supported as well.
That was the first one I was on, was the Sony View. Yep. But as soon as you signed up, I think within a few months they kept bumping the price, $5 here, $5 there. But you're saying that a lot of these services have their ad-supported sides as well, where it's basically free TV if you sit through the ads.
Correct. And when you look at consumer behavior, the main reason why a lot of people left the cable companies or the dish companies is because I'm a prime example. I had a $250 bill with DirecTV.
Yeah.
I had 4 boxes in my house, and you had to pay per box in your household. It was $10 a month per box, so you had equipment fees. Sling, I think, might have been the ones that introduced the skinny bundles, and that's what started to get consumers to say, "Well, I can save a ton of money. I don't have 300 channels I can name or that I need to watch, but hey, here's a package of 50 channels or 20 channels that I do want to watch, and if it's cheaper because of an ad-supported model, I get to save some money as a consumer."
Yeah, I never understood why cable TV didn't take it down the route where you could just subscribe per channel. I probably would have stuck around. If really, I probably only watch maybe 6 or 7 different channels at the most.
I'm starting to see some of that. They now bundle Netflix in the package that we have. Then you can buy specific premium channels one by one.
Oh, okay. I haven't checked into that.
They're having to make that shift because of where the consumers, what the consumers are wanting.
So, any more stats? What was it, Tom? You were bringing something up on the screen, trying to share something?
Yeah, I was looking at the trends of connected viewers in general, which was from that Q1 eMarketer PDF that we were all looking at the other day.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can bring that back up here. Just a couple of numbers that are interesting. I think that it's forecast that by, 2023, there are going to be about 123.5 million viewers of that type in the country. So the numbers are going up. Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you really don't have a choice. Everyone's going to this, so it only makes sense that the numbers are going up. Again, another reason why dealerships have got to get their finger on this.
And these are just digital video viewers, not that has nothing to do with traditional. So that's pretty exciting. There's so many numbers on this article. I'm getting I'm swimming here.
Yeah, we'll link to this over in the forums and on Facebook at the end of the show. We'll send some links out to some of these different articles that we're referencing. But yeah, this one's pretty strong. This has got a lot of great information around digital video trends for 2019.
So how do you advertise on one of these networks?
Yeah, that's the big question. I have no idea.
Well, you contact Hoot Interactive and you get on the digital video platform, or contact Premion.
Yeah,
there's a plug.
How are dealers? I mean, we've had.
That's all you need to know.
We just had,
all right, show over.
we just had the local cable company come in, and they were trying to. I asked them about this, and they sort of went the other direction, saying there weren't enough people using CVT in order to. They just made it sound like it wasn't worth it, which I didn't believe. I just have a funny feeling that it just wasn't worth it going through them because they don't have the right network, they don't have the right software, or whatever it takes in order to be able to manage it and get in front of the right consumers. I would also think that this way, and correct me if I'm wrong, this maybe is something that is part of your secret sauce at Hoot, is being able to become really targeted with your ads and being able to do so based on probably some crazy amounts of data. What are people interested in? What are they watching? Do you have anything to say around that? How much more effective is this from a data standpoint, being able to deliver a relevant ad to the right consumer at the right time?
Well, I think that's the whole reason that our digital video product came into existence. There were several challenges, I think, in the marketplace that we wanted to address. And number one, if you're going to use video outside of traditional, it can be very expensive if you have to reproduce the ad over and over and over when things change. Mm-hmm. So our company, coming from a production side, we collaborated with Miles at Hoot Interactive, and we developed a product that I think answers some of those questions directly. Mm-hmm. A video product. We'll call it dynamic video, or our version of dynamic video for the purposes of this. But what we saw was an expense issue with having to update your video every time something changed. So how could we create a product that automatically updated, which is what this particular product does. Dynamic in the sense that it updates automatically from a dealer's inventory whenever their prices change or a unit is sold. Mm-hmm. So that what you're seeing on the ad is actually live from their inventory. So that was one of the issues. And there were a couple of others, but that's how it came about. We took our production capability and Miles' knowledge of search and display, and we combined and sprinkled a little fairy dust on it, and boom. And it's a product that I think fits right into what Peter's doing at Premion, because he can now, whomever is managing the campaign, through the interface, they can target whoever they want.
Where does some of this data come from? Like, how are you capturing? What are you looking at? Of course, don't give up any of your secret sauce, but how targeted can a dealership get? How targeted can they get? And then, what about spend? What does this cost more? Is it cheaper? Some feedback around that, because I've been trying to do a lot of homework, even before today, and it seems as if the prices are all over the board. Can you speak to that?
Sure. And, to your first point about data, we volunteer a lot of data online. there's a lot of data that's collected just off of your home Wi-Fi. There's data that's, collected, every time you make a credit card transaction. Data that's collected off of your zip code. So when we talk to dealerships, we ask them, tell us, well, where do you get most of your, where most people buy in your, your inventory from, or where do they live? I lived in Atlanta for 30 years. I can tell you if a dealership is on the north side of town, someone's not going to travel 60 miles from the south part of Atlanta to drive, in 2 hours of traffic to get up there. So you target, basically what's in your PMA. And then how many auto intenders are there in that PMA? And we can tell you, hey, this is what your universe looks like for your dealership in this area for auto intenders. And that will kind of give them a good idea of, well, how much do I need to budget? And I'm just making up numbers here, but hey, if there's 1 million impressions a month for those auto intenders that are in these, couple counties, or maybe they do pull from the whole DMA that they're in, then we'll say, here's 1 million impressions. Obviously, that'd be a lot of, that'd probably be a pretty significant budget, but they can say, hey, well, let me try to grab 20% of that. Or let me see if I can grab, or dedicate this amount of money to that inventory that's available, or to those ads. So the impression is the ad, to kind of keep it simple.
And what kind of results are dealerships seeing with this now?
We're really just kicking this off from our standpoint. And from an advertising point of view, I think that the best you can ever do is top of mind awareness with a customer. And I think with CTV, we have an opportunity to do a similar approach that we had forever on traditional and dominate a particular segment, not unlike we did on traditional, now with the digital format. So that's what we're excited about. We don't have any raw numbers, but Peter does. I think Peter can give you more of a feel for that because they've been doing this.
Well, one thing I do like about the dynamic inventory ad creative that Hoot does is that you can actually see a sell-through report from the inventory. So I think that does kind of give you a little bit of a KPI from the campaign, or a way to know that's been working. But we also are able, because when you think about digital, everything from digital is, you got a lot more data behind it. So we look at, I hate to use the word attribution. I feel like that's the biggest buzzword.
He said it.
About that.
The viewer count just went down.
But the great thing, because it is digital, it is a video, we can see, we can measure. Well, we know it was delivered in this household. We know it was delivered to an IP address. And then from that, were there any other devices within that household that went to their website? So it's just like they've done in the past with retargeting, or just like they've done, with some of their other campaigns. We're going to measure a lift in their overall website traffic. And then you can even take it a step further, depending on the market that you're in or the size of the dealership, and you can measure foot traffic. It gets almost like Big Brother watching when that happens.
Yeah, no, it sort of scares me. I mean, for years, at least with digital, at least with TV, like you said, it's that impression, it's that top of mind awareness. It was sort of nice that there's still a medium out there that everyone wasn't so much clamoring to point it back to a sale. Okay, you've got to have that presence out there. You've got to build the awareness. And then on the digital side, we've tried desperately to, come up with that attribution model. How do we get this back to a sale? Who gets credit for the sale? And it sounds like with this, we've lumped TV into the ability to fit within that attribution model and take it back to a sale. I know with our DealerRefresh community and readers, we all know a little bit better. We know that, you're not going to attribute a sale back to one ad source. Typically you don't. There are exceptions, but it's everything working together in order to acquire that opportunity with the customer. But it sounds like with this, with the technology that you guys are able to provide, it's going to fit nicely into that attribution model. Not only can you become extremely targeted, get your message in front of the right consumer at the right time, there's even some abilities to be able to track it back to that customer walking into the dealership and making the sale, correct?
Well, we can track it back to how many people that we saw on their mobile device based on GPS walk into that physical location at that store. Now, like you mentioned before, though, it's not a perfect attribution model. We just know that we delivered an OTT ad to that household. Maybe they drove by your dealership and they saw it when they drove it by. Maybe they saw one of your billboards, but at least it gives you that type of a performance metric, so you can say, yes, we delivered the ad there. We captured their device ID, so basically we captured their cell phone, and then that cell phone then entered their dealership, and we can say we served an ad to them. We captured their mobile device. We saw that they entered your physical location, and you guys know better than we do. If someone walks into a dealership nowadays, they're much more qualified now than they were 10 years ago. They're doing all their research online. They probably already know the car that they have in their mind. They probably already know the price that they're going to pay. So they're much more qualified now when they walk in.
Yes, I still want that payment of $250 a month, but you are absolutely right.
Right.
So how accurate is that, and what technologies are you using? I know there's some newer technologies versus Geo. I think it's called polygons, where they're taking somehow they're acquiring the device ID, and they're able to track that within, I think, like a 3-foot radius, which is pretty gosh darn accurate to know, did that customer show up at the dealership, and then from there, what's going on. Is that some of the technology that you guys are utilizing with Hoot?
It's a little bit different. I think you're referring to geofencing. It's a little bit different than geofencing. But as far as when we deliver an OTT ad, the majority of the time they're going to be on a big screen, a connected TV or a smart TV that you watch in your living room. And then
yeah, that's exactly. Go ahead.
Can we show them one, Alex?
Sure.
So we deliver an ad that I think Alex is going to bring up.
Mm-hmm. Now, traditionally, a dealership has their TV commercial made. It's usually sort of a one size fits all. You buy within the network, set your ad spend, and you let it go. With your technology, is there some more flexibility around that? Can a dealership, because you can become so targeted, is it easier to maybe have a couple different ads and be able to dynamically target those customers? So let's say this customer is interested in this particular vehicle. Could you have an ad that caters more to that customer?
The answer is yes. And actually, you can do versioning with this technology. A lot of different versions, actually, depending on whom they're going after. This particular product from Hoot allows for up to 10 different versions, I think, or really as many as you want, with one ad template. And if you show the ad, I think it'll make more sense what I'm talking about. One person may be served up trucks, another may be served up SUVs. It depends on how they set up the interface, but that's the beauty of the technology. It allows for multiple versions.
That was a hell of an unintended segue, wasn't it?
Yeah.
All right, so what are we seeing here?
You're seeing a live feed from his inventory.
Okay.
And when these things change, the ad changes in terms of what's shown from the inventory. So you're not having to go back and reproduce the ad every time because you're going to get an updated price model.
Wow. So, I mean, this is a dynamic commercial that can sort of be changed. I guess, would you say?
Well, the only thing you would really change would be, I think, the filter options that are in the interface, if you so choose, or if they choose to update the template itself. There are a couple of options with this. We can create the template, or we use their existing ad as a companion ad. And there is basically a strip around it that the dynamic part goes on top of their existing ad.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right. I mean, that's
Gives them a lot of flexibility.
yeah. I mean, this is a lot of, this is sort of, I mean, this is what we've been able to do, you know, across our typical traditional, or not traditional, but digital advertising, is, you know, taking our inventory, placing it in that ad, and then being able to change that on the fly based on what we have in stock.
Well, you know, for years, the
with,
challenge we had, Jeff, with traditional, obviously, is particularly in used cars. If something was sold, the ad's still running, and people get there and the vehicle's gone, and that's, you know what that means. But because of budget constraints, you're not always allowed as a dealer. It's not always easy to go back and say, okay, we just need to throw out another ad.
yeah.
So this allows for those price changes, price drops, inventory that's no longer there. It won't appear on the ad. So that's what we're excited about.
Oh, yeah, rightfully
One
so.
of the many things we're excited about.
Not only be able to change up the inventory, but also be able to present that ad in front of a more target consumer at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's strong. That's very strong.
Yeah.
So what else?
There's a couple of comments.
What kind of questions do we have coming in?
Yeah, the first one, and I might take this one on as a response. Chris Leslie was asking about, you know, people who pay to have ads removed on these streaming services. And the first one that comes to my mind is like YouTube as one of the most commonly used. I myself, like, I wake up stupid early in the morning. For some reason, we keep farmers hours around here, but I'm up and it's before the kids are up, so I get to watch some YouTube and go down some deep holes of the internet.
Yeah, I've received your text messages 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I don't pay for YouTube, and I just don't see the value in it. I don't need to watch Cobra Kai. Jeff tells me all about it. I don't need to watch it, but I don't mind the ads. And I actually like watching a few of them as a marketer to see what others are doing.
Absolutely.
The same time, there's 4 other streaming viewers in my house, and at different times of day, some of these free services are getting hit because the content there is something that one of us want to watch. And you definitely come across the ads there. I hear it in the background. My kids might have something on. There's an ad playing. My wife, same story. So I think that it's happening. And even though I pay for a number of these streaming services, I still do consume the free ones.
Right.
So
I think you're spot on, Alex. I mean, the ones that are serving the ads, or even the ones that are 100% ad supported, it's because as a consumer, we want cheap and free content. I mean, we're tired of paying $200 a month for, you know, those high cable bills or the high, you know, satellite bills. And so now if I can go to, you know, DirecTV Now, or if I can go to Sling TV, or use PlayStation View, and I can pay a fraction of that and still get all my I love live sports. I want sports and news. Those are the, you know, kind of 2 things that I watch, and I don't have to spend a lot of money. I'm going to do that. And if you look at the ad breaks are actually shorter too. So it's a little bit easier as a consumer to digest when, oh, I only have 4 ads that are showing, and it's only going to be for 2 minutes, and it has the countdown. As a consumer, then I can sit through that. And then when the ads are targeted, which is the great thing about the OTT space, you're more likely to, you know, engage with them, or, you know, even pay attention to the ads.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And then Bill was saying he's confused by the awareness piece. And, you know, who doesn't know you sell whatever you sell in your marketplace? You know, the manufacturer educates the consumer on a product, and then Google ensures you're found. So I think he's kind of asking, why would I need to throw another channel in the mix?
As far as the, and I apologize, I was looking for the question when you were reading it. He was asking about the awareness.
Correct. Yeah, this is going back a little bit.
Oh, okay. It's a more efficient way of utilizing your TV spend. You're going after a targeted audience. These are non-skippable ads. So they're, I think I saw one comment in there that was about, if I just want to skip the ads, well, these are non-skippable. You're reaching the audience that you're intending to reach when they're most engaged with something they're watching. So, I travel quite a bit for work, but when I come home and me and my wife are sitting down and we turn on, I'll say it's HGTV. That's what I watch with my wife. We're engaged with that content. That's the time that we get to sit together and we get to watch House Hunters or Fixer Uppers. But we're engaged with that content because that's user initiated viewing. So you're going to have a more engaged audience too that you're reaching.
Yep.
What else we got?
There's Veronica's on here, and she is also responding to things, and you guys are very much in sync here. No, so I think some of my biggest question, like I'm sold, I would want to do this, but obviously the dollars come in.
Mm-hmm.
So is there maybe is there an average dollar amount that you see dealers spending? Say the average dealer sells 150 new cars a month, or 150 cars a month, let's say. They're in a marketplace that's not quite Atlanta.
You could be anywhere. It could be a couple thousand a month, and obviously dealers, they could spend on up, over $10,000 a month if they're in a bigger market. If they have multiple rooftops, but any single point dealership, it could be a couple grand a month. Given that they're not trying to hit the whole DMA and hit every auto intender, but it is an efficient type of TV buy.
Gotcha.
I think
if somebody wanted to get started, what would you recommend? Sorry, Tom. I didn't mean to speak over.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Go ahead, Peter.
Well, I think the first questions would be to ask is what market are they in? What DMA are they in? And, who's their audience? Who are they trying to reach? And those are the questions that they need to ask. They need to ask, well, how many available impressions are there? If you're in Atlanta and you're going to say, well, I have $1,000 to spend, you're probably not going to scratch the surface. So it really would depend on, where they're located and who they're trying to reach. But those are the questions that they need to ask. Regardless of the provider that they're talking to, is find out how many available impressions there are in the OTT space. Make sure that they have a creative that will work with OTT, like the dynamic creative that we just watched from Southwest Kia. And then they need to ask those questions, from their OTT, who's ever talking to them, is, well, where is my inventory going to be served? Or sorry, where are my ads going to run?
Yeah.
And I keep saying inventory, but where are my ads going to run? On what networks? On what programs? What buying platform are they using to get my ads on those networks? If they go and they're saying we use a programmatic platform, and I'm sorry for the buzzword, but if they use a buying platform that basically anybody else can go out and use, well, then you're just going to end up with the same type of inventory that everybody else is getting. So you need to make sure, you need to ask about the inventory, they need to ask about the data, and they need to ask about, make sure they have the transparency to know where my ad is being served and who it is being served to.
I think it's getting closer, thanks to companies like Premion, to where we can actually, it's not spot buy, but it's getting better. And I want to say to those dealers out there who are already in the television business or in using television as or video as a way to promote their dealership, I think there's still value in the traditional arena. And the big question is, what mix of all this do we use with our traditional digital mix? And Peter's company and those like it offer a way to bridge the gap, if you will, and take what we've been doing for 30 years or more on traditional and move it into the digital arena. And that's really what this is all about, is finding that vehicle, if pardon the term, to do what we've done for years on traditional, now on connected, which is, that to me is the exciting part.
Well, we've got a whole slew of new questions.
Good.
So we'll hit them in order of how they came in. So Brian Tucker is asking, what would be an example of a campaign that was successful using OTT? Something besides a repurposed TV ad.
So we can take, if you show the ad that we just saw from Hoot Interactive, we can take that TV ad and then have that inventory overlay right on top of it. So then you're making that dynamic ad unit that's going to be different from just your standard TV ad. And we've done the attribution model. We actually have a story from a Ford dealership where in 2 months we saw 114 people walk into that dealership. So that's the type of data that we want to provide back is, well, how do I know it was successful? This is how many people we saw walk in the store. Or we can do website traffic if you're, to look at the lift too. Sorry.
Maybe you could show images of vehicles or video of a vehicle. And then as new rebates come out and, lease payments get lower or change or whatnot, you can change out the payments and change out the incentives. So you could like if you're a Jeep dealer and you want to be running a Wrangler ad all the time, you could always have current payments and current incentives.
Absolutely.
We can update these feeds, however the dealership wants. They can have multiple ads running at the same time. So you could have one that's just for the Wrangler. You could have one that's just for, your Grand Cherokees. If you're a Ford dealership, you could have, hey, here's my Ford F-150 ad, here's my SUV ad, here's my sedan ad with Fusion and the Focus. So you can definitely change them up. You can have ads that are just for used vehicles. Absolutely.
Okay. So then the next question. So Chris Leslie, again, just asking, it's not a CPM model at all?
It is a CPM model. Absolutely. That's how the pricing is. That's CPM. That's for 1,000 impressions. You're going to look anywhere from $30 to over $40 if that's true long form content. If someone's offering you something in the 20s, I would ask. That's when you start asking the questions. If it's that low, I mean, it's almost too good to be true. You could be getting stuff off in exchange, which is kind of like the remnant inventory. You can see channels like the dog relaxation channel. I am not making that up. I really they had the dog relaxation channel. Great channel for your pet when you leave the house and you don't want them to get anxious. You turn it on. It's probably other dogs playing, so they don't get bothered, but they're not going to engage with the ads. I live in Florida now. I have the Yule log channel. It's when it turns your TV into a fireplace during the winter.
Yeah, I use that on Christmas morning.
Yep, that's ad supported. That's not the channel you want to be on though. So, so if you're seeing something in the 20s, you're probably getting something that might have a little mix of. You'll get some long form content like programming that you want to be on. Then you might have some short form. And you might get the Yule channel or Mullet TV. I can say that because I'm from Georgia. I never had a mullet though, but I've seen Mullet TV show up on reports too. So those are the ones you want to watch out for. Those are the questions you need to ask of the dealer.
I think you can go on Snapchat.
Good one to sell pickup trucks.
Put a mullet on you.
Oh.
No mullet for me, Tom.
Okay.
That's where I'm going to sell my pickup trucks.
That's why we can push to sell your pickup trucks.
Yep.
On the pet channel.
So, Peter, what you're saying is whatever company you do decide to work with, be sure that they are transparent and they're able to give you a list or at least be able to show which channels or which programs that your ads are going to be showcased on.
It's almost a must. I mean, they should absolutely know where it's running. But unfortunately, as in any other digital space, especially with the OTT space that's growing so fast, there can be fraud and there is fraud.
That was my next question, was around fraud. I mean, that was always, and it still continues to be a concern with all digital marketing. I think we've obviously gotten a lot better with it over time, but having your display ad show up on particular websites that you really don't want your ad showing up on for all the right reasons. And then ones where, the ad really isn't being shown because maybe it's below the fold and it's being counted as a show, even though the customer never scrolled, but since it's loading on that page, what are some things that dealerships need to be looking for in this platform, in this type of medium with fraud?
Well, the question they should ask is how is the platform, the company that they're about to work with, how are they identifying fraud? How are they making sure that it's not, it's not an app-based type of fraud, it's not a device-based type of fraud. There's certain articles out there that say about 17 to 18, or I think I might see as high as 19% of OTT ad calls, meaning that the impression that's being delivered is fraudulent. So the companies need to say how are they going to attack that, and how are they mediating the fraud in that space. Companies like Premion, you might hear some fancy new terms like blockchain technology and cryptography.
You hear that stuff, run.
It's another one, but it's like attribution.
A little AI and some blockchain, please.
What does DSP stand for?
But that's
people.
Again against fraud. When you see those low CPMs, that's almost like a red flag of, well, I'm either getting short form, I might get some cat videos on YouTube. It's not going to be all that long form content that you're used to watching on the big screen. So those are some things that they need to watch out for.
There's a whole slew of questions that just keep coming. There's one in particular that's getting a lot of love and likes from Rick Buffkin. And he's just asking, what's the average ad time length you see the most success with?
30 seconds. Keep it at 30. Don't run 60s. 15s, I don't think you're getting your message across. Most of the time, you're paying for the 30-second spot anyway. So I would recommend 30s.
30
That's
seconds.
a great question. I'm glad you brought that up, Rick. I was actually going to ask that question myself. So you've got a 30-second ad, you're saying that's probably the best length. What about does it make sense to bring that 30-second ad over to, I got to figure out how I want to formulate this question. My apologies. Because you've got a lot of ads that you can, click here to skip ad. But that's really not the platform that you're utilizing, correct?
Correct. These are non-skippables. So some of those platforms, YouTube is a great example, but that's a lot of that short form where you skip the ad after 5 seconds.
Yeah.
When you're on Swing TV, you can't skip those ads.
Okay.
Typically, we're scrolling through about 3 to 4 vehicles on these dynamic ads, and I think 30 gives it the perfect opportunity to be scrolled and absorbed by the consumer.
Are any of these ads, are we to a point where they can be interactive? I mean, I know,
Not on connected TV.
Yeah,
No.
like 10 years ago, everyone projected, you'll be watching TV. And I think we actually tested this out in a couple of different markets. But you'll be watching TV and be able to engage with that ad right there, be able to hit the link, and then it would, I would say come up on your TV. But since so much TV now is being consumed on a mobile device, are we at a point, do you guys have the ability to have an interactive ad where you're watching that ad for more information? Go ahead and click here.
You can click through on other platforms, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
With our product, yes, you can click through, depending on the platform you're on. On connected TV, it's more of a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
We are working on that in the laboratory, though. Something like a QR code that would appear on the ad.
Yeah.
Now you're talking Jeff's language.
Coming back, baby. We've got.
You will, I think, in a very short period of time, I think you'll see that feature on this technology.
Yeah, that could be exciting. I know that's something that's been talked about for a long time. No, it's funny you bring up QR. One of our oldest threads on DealerRefresh is around QR codes. And
oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's it's quite humorous, but in its own weird way, I feel like I'm seeing more and more QR codes around. Increasing, I'm telling you, more and more QR codes. People are using it. I don't know if it was before its time, or if it's just going to have its comeback, or what it is. But back to your answer. So yeah, so it sounds like that's something we'll probably see more of in the future as well, is the ability to actually engage with the ad. So that's really cool that Hoot's is able to do that.
There's a point in the comments that I realized as you were explaining something earlier, Peter, and I think it's very important to point out that from Matt Perry. He's basically saying, one video ad can be produced and for no additional production cost. So you could have one one creative expense one time, especially if you're running, things over it like payments or incentives or different vehicles and whatnot. And man, that's something we haven't really been able to do on TV.
Yeah, that was one of the main criteria when we first came up with this, was that the cost was prohibitive to go back and reproduce a video every time price changed. Thus, the technology that we came up with. So you don't have to pay for it every time.
Yeah, way more efficient for sure.
More better.
More better. So what other technologies and features would, let's say, a company or a service such as Hoot or Hoot itself, what else haven't we touched on that you guys are able to provide that that dealerships really need to know?
Well, Hoot, first and foremost, is a search and display company, and we grew the video portion of this out of that. Our understanding of search and display blended with our video production capability. That's how this all came about. Mm-hmm. I think in the future, we're looking at things that are a little more automated, even more than what we have currently with the dynamic video product, in terms of things like voice to text, text to voice, creating these ads on the fly kind of thing, but we'll see how that goes.
Mm-hmm. What about from a delivery standpoint? And where do you see this in 5 years? How quick, especially just the landscape itself? We've already said how confusing it is. Is it going to continue to get more confusing, or do you think it's...
No, I think, with companies like Peter and Premion, if you're a car dealer and you're trying to figure out where to go with your digital dollars and you want to use video, mm-hmm. you need to talk in a language that is not unlike what we used to do in traditional television. And that's where Premion, I think, stands out, because they can talk to a dealer or a client in those kind of terms and not dazzle them with what you were talking about a minute ago, with things that really, I'm not sure. I think they're just making it up. Mm-hmm. I know from a car dealer standpoint, they get inundated by the good, the bad, and the ugly. Peter's company, I think, cuts through that clutter and can talk in terms that are understandable, not too confusing, and that's why we teamed up with them.
I think there's going to be more services. Disney is coming out with their service later this year. I can tell you, I'm definitely going to subscribe to that with my daughters.
They're going to premiere Endgame on that. How about that? Talk about getting people to subscribe.
Don't ruin it for me. I haven't seen it yet.
I won't say a word about it, but I was just reading an article that the Disney Plus, that's going to be that's where it's going to premiere first. Outside of the theater, so that'll be a strong pull for them. And then also some bundling options because of Disney they're going to have the Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, Hulu, and I think they've got something else, and be able to subscribe, I guess, to one and just have $20 for all of them. Who knows? But again, it's going to be, it's already confusing. I don't see it becoming less confusing. And thank goodness that, there's some companies out there. We've got Hoot out there to help dealerships better understand the landscape and be able to actually purchase into these mediums and keep it at a great budget, having the ability and the technology to change your ads on the fly, or not so much change them, but not have to change them, have them automatically.
Well, I think from this point, we need to make it clear that Peter's company, Premion, is the go-to.
Okay.
On that. We're more of a technology company and software company that support what he's doing.
Okay.
But in terms of placement, you would go to Peter.
You mentioned earlier, Peter, some different ad-supported platforms out there. You mentioned Pluto. What was the other ones?
Zumo, yeah, Fawsome TV, FreeFlix, Tubi TV, Crackle is ad supported. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of content that's out there that consumers can watch tons of movies and shows without paying anything.
Yeah, that Pluto was acquired by Viacom for how much? And I never even heard of Pluto.
340 million.
God, Alex, how do we put one of these together? that's just crazy.
Sounds like you got to talk to Tom.
Yeah.
What's that?
How can a dealership find out how many people are watching these ad-supported platforms within your region? Is that something that that you guys are able to provide?
Absolutely.
Again, I would defer to Peter on that because they're placing it. There are some tools, I think, that are sort of built in the back end, are they not, Miles? That, I mean, you can get an idea of numbers of impressions. No. Yeah. No, that's Peter's bailiwick.
Okay, so Peter, that's something that a dealership, that they want to know, hey, what are they potentially missing out on? They could get with you, and you'd be able to come up with that information for them, correct?
Absolutely. We could pull basically their DMA or whatever audience that they're trying to reach and let them know this is the amount of impressions that are available.
Yeah. Excellent. Alex, any more questions we have on the Facebook stream?
There's some great comments over there.
Yeah.
So they're worth reviewing, and if anyone gets the time to go in there and answer some of those and respond to some of the comments, that'd be excellent.
Sure.
Fantastic.
No problem.
Well, let's wrap this up. We've been going for about an hour now. Gentlemen, I really appreciate you joining us, because again, this is definitely a topic that's not, at least and I keep up with all the magazines, all the publications. There's really not a lot of people talking about this.
Well, I think if I may say one thing, we mentioned early on in the show that 2008 was sort of the seismic shift in television when a lot of dealers abandoned it and went more digital, less TV, less traditional. CTV, connected TV, I think is the new TV. And I think as we move forward, that will be the Wild West. And even though there's a lot of different offerings out there, there's a lot of opportunity, I think, for those who are willing to step up and get involved early, because it's easy to get on and it's not expensive. And that's all I'm going to say.
That's always a great time to take advantage, find out what's new out there. A lot of times you can get in the game. I mean, I remember paying 8 to 12 cents a click and paid search back in the day, and it was what a great opportunity to get in the very beginning, enjoy the benefits and the price while you can.
Absolutely. And you can own it.
Yeah, exactly. You can own it, and it's not going to last forever. So what better time than now to get in on it? Alex, any more questions? You think we're all wrapped up? Fantastic. Again, gentlemen, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Now, if anyone wants to reach out to you, gentlemen, we'll make sure your contact information. There's a post in the forum, post in the blog. We've got it, of course, on Facebook. You guys are going to be able to jump into the thread, maybe answer some of the questions that are out there. We'll have a recording of this posted up on YouTube. And, of course, there's always the comments and stuff there, but we'll definitely keep an eye on this. And maybe have you guys back, maybe 6 months, a year, see what's changed. And,
Perfect.
See where technology and where this, who knows? Well, maybe we already know a lot of the platforms are going to be changing. So you guys will be there to take advantage of it.
Well, thank you for having me.
You got it. Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you so much, Tom. And Alex, who do we have next week?
Looks like Kent Lund.
Mr. Kent Lund. Yeah, we're going to be talking about photo booths. Boy, talk about a change direction. Yeah, we're going to be talking about photo booths, merchandising, installing photo booths at the dealership. That's always been a hot topic with the Dealer Refresh community. So that's it should be fun. Definitely fun. So we'll see everybody back here next week, same time, and make it a great weekend.
Sell cars, make money.
You got it.
Damn right.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.